Right, you're welcome back. We're still talking about the Metele, massacre, if you like. Yes, the attack on military bases that has continued over time in Nigeria for many months now. Well, joining us from Abuja to discuss the Nigerian military and the counter-insurgency strategy in view of the upsurge in Boko Haram attacks is security and counter-terrorism expert, Group Captain Sadiq Shehu, retired. Good morning and thanks for joining us on the show.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Yes, good to have you. Now, let's even begin from the question of the military strategy. The UN security arm, not too long ago, actually raised an issue that the Nigerian military has been approaching the anti-terrorism war in the conventional manner that you would approach, a conventional war, that there is a serious need to change strategies. Talk to us about, the strategy that is being deployed now and how it's failing or working in your view.
Thank you very much. First, permit me to just observe, I see on your screen Nigerian Army and Insurgency. I think a more appropriate term would have been Nigerian military and insurgency, because this insurgency is supposed to be something that involves all the military arms and even the police and other paramilitary. So just to set that clearly.
Okay.
Secondly, on the issue of the Nigerian military fighting counter-insurgency, which is an irregular warfare using using conventional tactics, I want to believe from the highest to the lowest of the military authorities in Nigeria and government, that is not something to be doubting. We should be doubting about. It has been accepted that our strategy, our doctrine, before the appearance of Boko Haram has always been based on the fact that Nigerian armed forces will fight a conventional war. What I mean a conventional war, Nigerian armed forces fighting against another country, neighboring country or another country. Unfortunately, this has been from our equipment to our training to our doctrine, right from the colonial days, that is how we were formed. When the Boko Haram started, circa 2009 to date, we have been struggling in the midst of a warfare to align ourselves to the irregular terrain. So there is no question of debating what the UN said, because it is something that has been accepted even here at home, that we have a military that is designed for conventional warfare, finding an unconventional warfare. But in between, since we started, there have been changes trying to change. But we have to agree that it is not an easy thing when you are fighting, and that is the time also you are making changes into your tactics and doctrine. That's what I have to say on that.
All right, but it's almost 10 years now that Nigerian army, or the military as the case may be, have known that we are not fighting a conventional war, and the strategy certainly has to be different. We've brought experts, we've brought retired army officers. They all know, everyone is aware that this is not a conventional war. But it's almost 10 years. How long would it take before Nigeria can now get to understand, like you are a counterterrorism expert, for instance, people like you, I know that you are not the only one. There are other Nigerians who are as intelligent as you are, who are spread across, even helping other countries and all of that. What would it take for Nigeria to bring in all of these people who understand the expertise of not fighting a conventional war, to bring them on board to help solve this situation?
Thank you, though I didn't get you clearly, but I want to get that you are asking of how Nigeria can change from the conventional to non-conventional. Luckily or unluckily, we have countries all over the world, several countries that have gone through counter-insurgency. And military wars are fought and refought. We have lessons to learn from these countries. And I think that is what the Nigerian military is doing. Maybe the pace, we may debate about the pace, but the issue is we have to look at countries, Colombia, Sri Lanka, even Americans in Vietnam, in Afghanistan, in Iraq. How did they fight? What did they learn? There is a lot of very rich literature on how counterinsurgencies, what led to success, and the factors that led to failure. How insurgencies end, how it was fought, how militaries all over the world, Nigerian military is not the first to be caught in a conventional mindset while they are fighting an unconventional warfare. So what I would say is to continue looking at lessons learned from other countries. And even as we are doing that, what the general trend is showing all over the world is that, for example, Nigeria is very, very unlikely to fight a war against another country. But we may continue to get, attacked or threatened by these unconventional threats or irregular threats. So with this trend in mind, our strategists, our politicians, our military, our think tanks should be keeping lessons learned even as this war is being fought. Because in honesty, I always say that just like the Americans faced Vietnam, this Boko Haram is turning to be our own Nigeria's Vietnam. We have to draw lessons, and then even as we are fighting again, making adjustment. And like I said earlier, it's not easy. It's like you can prepare for a football match, and then along the way they say the game has been changed to rugby. And you have to continue playing. It is not easy, but it can be done. However, God willing, if we see the end of this insurgency, what we are seeing now, it shows from the doctrine level to equipment level to strategy level, Nigeria has a lot to shape its security forces or its defense sector to face the kind of enemy we think we are going to face tomorrow.
Okay. Now, the Minister of Defense, Mansour Dan Ali, is expected to be in Chad. As at Monday, we're told towards the end of the week, he should be preparing already to be in Chad now to hold meetings with his Chadian counterpart and, of course, his counterparts in the other, West African countries that share the same challenge. What exactly should he be demanding of this, of his counterparts? And what should they be assuring him with?
Like it has been said often, counterinsurgency or terrorism is an international phenomenon. We have insurgents, Boko Haram, operating across 3 or 4 borders. So definitely it means if pressure is put in one country, there is tendency for them to cross over. So we continue the dialogue which was started by this government when it comes to get the understanding of our neighbors, that it is in our collective interest to ensure that Boko Haram do not find refuge in one country or the other. Now, the problem of the task that Minister Dan Ali is going to have is that different countries are endowed differently. But certainly Nigeria cannot do it alone. So we continue to dialogue. We continue to seek cooperation from these countries. And again, as we are doing, one lesson to me as a security expert is the fact is that this dialoguing, this understanding the culture of our neighbors is something that we should have been doing all along. But unfortunately, we have not been doing it. For example, our security forces, our intelligence forces are supposed to have studied the terrain in Chad, in Cameroon, in Benin Republic, all these neighboring Francophone countries. But the reality, the sad reality is that how much really do we know about these countries? Very little, I have to say. We don't know their language, we don't know their culture. So these are issues, again, as I said, as the war is being fought, we are learning lessons. It's very difficult to cooperate with a country whose military tactics you don't know, whose military doctrine you don't know, whose language you don't know. So again, this is one lesson. But we will continue to engage with them. And along the way, I foresee them making, we have to maybe cover some gaps that these countries have in terms of finances, in terms of equipment. Unfortunately, that is the price that Nigeria will have to pay.
All right. We saw the video of military officers in the battlefront went viral when young officers have been complaining of not having good weapons to fight with. They complain of obsolete weapons. In fact, they said that some of the weapons they are using were some bought since the Shagari era, others were manufactured since 1972, and they complained and called on the president to do something. Now, how would you describe the morale of the soldiers, especially when the younger ones who are at the battlefield, who understand the implication of an outburst, but out of frustration, they have to do it anyway because they feel that they have got nothing to lose? What impact will this have in the fight against this insurgency?
Thank you very much for that question. First, let me set the background that I am happy I read on this day, like 2 days ago, that the president said he was an update of the equipment being used by our armed forces. In your studio now, I'm just seeing also that the Nigerian House of Representatives are undertaking an inquiry into the incident at Matele. Already, the Nigerian Senate have already set up a committee. All these are good things. But I have to, with one caveat, we should not look at the misfortunes of our soldiers or military men as something that is political. I want to see a bipartisan approach to address these problems. I want to see cooperation between the legislature and the executive. Why do I say? We, the citizens, and our government, we owe the soldier in the front line. He has taken a covenant to risk his life, if necessary, to sacrifice his life. But that covenant is based on the fact that you give the soldier all that he requires to prosecute the war. What I want to see the National Assembly and the executive doing is to find out, without lending credence to that video which I have seen making the rounds, but the issue is very simple. The National Assembly and the executive should ask on the ground. For example, the military is a very sophisticated and organized organization. When you say a battalion, there is what is called table of organization and equipment, by which it means when we say battalion X, there is the number of officers and men that are supposed to be in that battalion. I want to see this investigation confirming, do we have the requisite number of officers and men in a battalion? For case of clarity, when you talk about battalion, you are talking about numbers from 600 to 800, depending. Do we have enough boots on the ground to man those battalions? Or are they what is called in military parlance hollow battalions without the adequate number of men and officers? That is one. Secondly, equipment, which you pointed in that video. For every unit from section to a platoon, to a company, to a battalion, to a brigade, there is what is called table of equipment. We are supposed to know how many mortars, how many APCs, how many infantry fighting vehicles. If it is an armored battalion, how many tanks? All these are things that we inherited from the British. So it is very easy to verify. Do these battalions or do these units have the appropriate equipment? That is the kind of investigation I want to see. When you come to the normal soldier, you talk about the morale of the soldier. The morale of the soldier knows by his signature that he may die. But he wants to die knowing that he's fully equipped. In military parlance, there's what we call FSMO, or full service marching order. That means what is a soldier supposed to carry into the battlefield. A modern soldier is supposed to carry about 1/3 his body weight in equipment. From what to eat, from water purification tablets, so that if he's holed up somewhere and there is no water, he can pick water from the running stream and put a tablet and purify the water and drink. That will make him survive. He is supposed to go into battle with a number of magazines and a number of rounds to ensure that he can survive, even if he's cut off from his forces. A soldier also is not a machine. He's supposed to have as much as possible as that war is not something about comfort. He's supposed to carry things that will keep him comfortable, to keep him warm, to eat hot food if necessary, not always possible. So all these things we should find out. This FSMO is a concept we learned right from the Nigerian Defense Academy. Full service marching order.
Okay.
Our soldiers going into battle with all the equipment they require. This is the kind of investigation I want to see the National Assembly and the executive doing. When you ensure that the soldier has what he has, that raises the morale of the soldier.
Yeah, but then again,
does he
that would
does he have hand grenade? Does he have enough ammunition?
Yes.
I am not going to speculate on that, but that is the issue. We have what the soldier, it is our doctrine. It is our doctrine. Full service marching order, full combat order, what is supposed to be. In training, in fact, periodically, even wartime, a soldier is supposed to bring his kit. What and what do you have? The quartermaster or whatever is going to check what is missing, what is not missing, and it is replaced. So please, let's ensure this is what we owe the executive, the National Assembly, and even those public commentators, is to ensure that when we send the soldier to go and die, we do so that he's fully equipped. The soldier fully knows that not all of them will return. It is something you signed, you know that. But it will be highly irresponsible for us if we send the soldier and we are not sure he has the equipment that he has. I have talked of numbers.
Indeed.
Do we have numbers? Talking of numbers, let me emphasize.
Yes.
Many researches have been shown on counterinsurgency. Counterinsurgency, like I said, has been fought by other countries. There is a minimum number of troops which you require on the ground for you to have chance of success. Counterinsurgent experts have reduced it to a fact that when you are comparing how many troops do you need to run an insurgency, the issue of the size of the area comes into place, the issue of the population coming into place, and they have reduced it to almost a science. Not exactly a science, but that for every 1,000 people you want to protect, you need a minimum of 20 soldiers per 1,000 inhabitants.
Yeah.
As I was coming into your studio, I did a rough calculation on Borno State.
Yes.
Taking Borno State, not the whole Northeast. It has a population of 4 point something million. What did I find out? If you use that ratio, you need 83,000 troops on the ground.
Whoa.
To hold. Why do you need so much troops? Because counterinsurgency is about convincing the people in Baga, the people to stay where they are. Because that is, counterinsurgency is not about smashing the enemy or capturing towns. It's making sure the people, and the people can only return when you have a minimum number of presence. 20 people to 1,000, you need 83,000 troops to hold Borno alone. Wow. I don't know, I cannot speculate how many troops we have in Borno, but you can make the calculation.
You have raised very, very... let me come in if I may.
Wherever there's a counterinsurgency,
yes,
and you have less than 20 troops per 1,000, the tendency is that you are going to lose that counterinsurgency.
Wow. Now, the questions that you have raised just now, one can only hope that the people who will be investigating the this, in the House of Reps actually know the right questions to ask in order to understand the kind of answers that they get. So in looking at the issue of, equipping of the military or the soldiers in the battlefront, I recall the incident that happened in 2014 following the Baga killings, where 54 soldiers actually, protested and complained about their poor equipment after about 23 of them had been killed. Of course, eventually they were court-martialed and given the life sentence. Fortunately, that was changed to 10 years imprisonment. Some of them are they're still in prison now. Some groups have said these people should be treated actually as whistleblowers and heroes and not the way they have been treated. I wonder if you agree with that. What should happen to those people in the light of these events and following the same kind of protest that has happened, showing to the world that these people are not as equipped as we expect them to be equipped?
Thank you very much. I like the way you started about how can a National Assembly member or a politician ask the right question. With all due respect, our legislators, they have to take their work serious. When they say you're a committee member of defense, or a committee on army, or committee on navy, or committee on air force, you should dedicate your time in finding how these military services operate. How are they equipped? If you don't do that, if you don't have that capacity, in all honesty, I cannot see any oversight that you can do. Your oversight is just to go, you will be snapped on TV, you have made a visit. You have to know how to ask the good questions. In the United States, when we have people doing oversight in their National Assembly, either in the Senate or House of Representatives, the late McCain, even though he was a soldier, is an example. These are people that are well grounded in military operations, even if they have not served in the military. A legislator, for him to be effective, must be able to know what questions to ask. I have talked about equipment. With all due respect, how many of our legislators actually know what a battalion is supposed to have? How many of them know what a soldier is supposed to carry into battle? Now, if you don't know what a soldier is to carry into battle, to me, in all honesty, you are only playing to the gallery. If you come and say you have suspended sitting, you sympathize with the soldier. The way to sympathize with the soldier is to ensure that these people are given the appropriate equipment, is to ensure that money released to them gets to them on time. And then you can follow the money. Follow the money to ensure it is used. There's nothing wrong with that. So the capacity of our legislators to really oversight the military, it's really a very, very important fact. Two ways of getting it. Either you sacrifice time to read yourself, if you are not a military man, or you get consultants that will help you in asking the right questions. If we don't do that, in all honesty, we'll just be window dressing, we have postponed sitting, we sympathize with governors, show us the list of the soldiers that die. All these are necessary, but they are not the important thing. The work of a legislator in the defense committee, in the army committee, is to ensure that the army has what it requires. The legislator in the Air Force committee is to ensure the Air Force has enough aircraft, enough fuel to fly its aircraft. The man in the Navy committee is to ensure how many frigates, how many ships, in fact, what is a frigate, what is a corvette, where are they going to be used? If you don't know that, with all due respect, you are not an effective legislator. So we have to. On the issue of the people that raised, in all honesty, a soldier is supposed to be obedient. If the executive, from the president, the minister, and the legislative, these oversight committees, if they do their work covertly, if they do their work appropriately, with knowledge, asking the right questions, in all honesty, we will not have soldiers, true or false, going on video and saying we don't have this, we don't have that. Somebody is supposed to look after their back.
Okay.
They are not supposed to be shouting for equipment.
All right.
It is not their work.
Thank you.
But probably maybe the people who are supposed to do this oversight are not doing their work.
Not doing
we have to ask
what they're
ourselves.
supposed to do. We have to leave
I
it
want
now.
to see this, something that happened in Meteli, as a watershed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm
Captain.
happy all the stakeholders are coming in. The president has asked for answers. The Senate has asked for answers. The House of Reps has asked for answers.
Okay. All right. The president is going to the northeast, so we expect that some of those questions will be answered. Group Captain Sadiq Shehu, retired, counterterrorism expert. Thank you very much for talking to us on TVC Breakfast this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.